You may know him as the very small version of Chris Tarrant that was frequently seen running around the studios at Tiswas back in the day. It's my great pleasure to introduce to you today's guest, Oliver Spencer. Good morning, Oliver.
Good morning, Amy. How are you doing?
I'm really well. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad at all, really. A bit of Groundhog Day. Obviously, stayed in most days, but I'm very well. Thank you. Not too bad. It's good to be here.
Excellent. Well, we've got loads of questions that have come through to you on our chat today. So we're going to try and get as many of those through as well. Plus, there's lots that we want to know. So in previous Tiswas Onlines in the mornings, we've had your sister Bonnie. We've had your dad, Ollie or Roger. And so today we are completing the family set, the Tiswas family set of the Spencers. So how old were you when you first got involved with Tiswas?
I think I was 3 years of age, which is obviously ridiculously young. So at that age, I've got a little few memories, sort of flashes here and there, but obviously I was 3. I did it for a number of years after that, but I think the first sketch I ever did was when I was, Chris Tarrant was in the sauna, and he was shrinking, and I came out with a little towel around me, so I was like the mini Chris Tarrant. I think that was the first thing that I ever did. And I do remember I didn't want to do it. I was a bit, no, I don't want to do it. And I only did it on the premise that I was allowed to have water pistols in my hand and I was allowed to squirt the audience when I came out. So as soon as I got me some water pistols, I was like, yeah, I'll do it, no problem. And that was the first thing I ever did. So I was only 3. I was smaller than a hobbit, so very tiny.
So had you come along with your sister to the show and they had just spotted you, or had someone planted you and said, look, this child looks just like Chris Tarrant if he was very small? How did they actually get you involved? I
think I went to sort of dancing school from a very early age anyway, so I was already going to dancing lessons even at 3. But long story short, I was born with my knees were a little bit facing inwards, and I was recommended to do ballet because it had to turn your feet out. So that's how I first started dancing. And I went to Glasgow Water Academy even at that age, so I used to go along, and then my dad was like, oh, Oliver will do that, no problem. So I'd already kind of got used to performing and doing the bits and things like that anyway. So I did it, and then that was the first time, and then we started to do more and more as time went on. It's fabulous, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Over the weeks, we've discovered that a lot of the team at Tiswas were working all the way through the week to get things ready. How much rehearsal time did you get?
I'm getting a bit of feedback there, sorry. There we go.
We've talked through how a lot of the Tiswas team had quite a lot of time during the week to prepare for the show on Saturday. How much rehearsal and preparation?
Rehearsal time? Oh, not much at all. We used to kind of do it the night before sometimes and go through it a few times, and that was it. I think Bonnie said we had a Tiswas class on like a Friday night, and obviously the show was live on the Saturday. We sort of work out what we were doing, go through it a couple of times, then maybe run through it again very briefly, and then you were live on national television. It was pretty much fast tracked on. I think that was kind of part of the charm of the show, really. You didn't want it all polished and looking all perfect. It's kind of, there was a bit of freestyling involved, so whatever happens, happens. You had a premise of what was going to happen, then it would be sort of it'll be all right on the night kind of scenario, really. Mm.
Yeah. I think we've got a clip playing now of you singing your little heart out, singing away.
Okay.
Can you remember, are there any of the sketches that you did that stand out that you remember doing?
I remember doing one which we couldn't find any footage for when I was interviewing Sally James, and it was like a school. I was dressed in like a school uniform with a motorboard, and I remember doing an interview with Sally, and she was fantastic. I remember really, really enjoying that. And then I think we did the 12 Days of Christmas, which I was the partridge in a pear tree, and I was like hanging in a tree in like this swing. And we went through like 12 days, 11 days, all the way through, and I remember that quite vividly, even though I was very young. I think the main thing I can remember in the studio is how hot it was, because you've got all the lights obviously shining on you, and it was incredibly warm. And I also remember just the real smell of shaving foam. That was one of the main things you'll remember from Tiswas. There was like this wiry carpet on the floor with all the shaving foam kind of embedded into it. Because obviously the show's got so messy, and it was just carnage, pies flying around everywhere, and gunge and water. So, and you could really smell it in the studio as well. So that was one of the main kind of memories that sticks in my head so much was the actual smell of shaving foam. And there was always a table of custard pies ready, made out of foam at the side, ready to go. So I love doing it. It was fantastic.
So one question that I've utterly failed to ask anyone so far in the series is, obviously there was loads of stuff flying everywhere. There was pies, there was guns, there was food, there was all sorts. Obviously water as well. Did people just leave the studio like that if they're in the audience or in the dance group? Or did you actually have the opportunity to be given a towel, or did you have to bring a towel with you? What were the rules?
I think whoever got the cleaning contract for the studios afterwards must have had the work cut out, because it was kind of just left, I think, really. A lot of people had towels on their head. Everyone kind of, there was no holds barred, really. Everyone got pied at some stage. The trip was trying to avoid it. I remember I was always terrified of getting any pies. I was a bit freaked out by it. I was like, I didn't want it on me. I think there's a bit when I'm reading the news at Den, and I know I'm getting water on me, and I keep lifting the umbrella up because I know it's coming. I think they showed some footage of my dad when he did the Joe Dolce What's the Matter You. I remember we watched the footage of that last week, and I remember thinking to myself, I didn't want my dad to get covered in pies, and I wasn't happy about the fact that he was going to get covered in shaving foam, because all the rest of the kids were pieing him as the sketch went on, and I wouldn't do it because I felt bad for him, not that you can. So I think it was a bit of a no holds barred, but at the end of the show, the studio was pretty trash, really, and most people were drying themselves off. But I think it just got left, and then all the grown-ups went in the bar afterwards. So
the main role that most of us remember you for is being Chris Tarrant's Mini-Me. So what was it like? I mean, this is before the days of Austin Powers and that Mini-Me. You were the original Mini-Me.
I suppose.
What was it like being his right-hand man?
Yeah, well, I had long blonde hair then, you see. So a bit like Chris. Unfortunately, I've lost most of it now. I'm just going. So, but when I was little, my hair used to be kind of down to there. I just remember him being fantastic. He was, trying to remember specific things that he said was obviously hard because it's a long time ago. But I remember his energy. He was always kind of great with all the kids. He was like very kind of spoke to the kids almost like he did to the adults, really. Come on, you lot, and he'd be taking the mickey out of them and sort of grabbing you and ripping your hair and stuff. He was kind of just really good fun. And obviously he's a big guy, so, I mean, I was little anyway, but Chris is kind of, 6'2" plus, like Lenny, so they kind of, it was like this larger-than-life kind of person with this big stripy rugby shirt on. I just remember him being fabulous and really good fun. He was always really nice to us all the time. I think there was a sketch when he was a competition winner, was the sketch, and I had to sit on Chris's lap. And the gag was Chris was reading out all the things that I'd won my parents. So you've won a holiday here and this, that, and the other. You've got 2 weeks here. And at the end of the sketch, I go, "Thanks, Dad." And that's the gag. And Chris grabs me, and you can actually see him. I'm all practically horizontal. He's rubbing my hair, and you can see me laughing my head off. And that he was great. He was just. It was really, really fun.
We've got a question here from Mark. Mark says, can you ask Ollie if Chris gave him any tips and advice on how to be him?
Did he give me any advice at all? No, I think he used to just take the mick out of me all the time, to be honest with you. I think that was his way of trying to stop me from being nervous, I suppose. He was just always like, just... come on, you, and he just made things really, really easy for you. But he didn't give me any tips on how to be him. I think he just trusted me that when we was on live, I kind of do it, and I love performing anyway, really. So, and after a few times of being on there, you got used to it, and it became less and less nerve-wracking, and then it just became kind of the norm, really. He was on the show next week. It was great, and I think Chris kind of trusted us to sort of do what we're supposed to do, and then hopefully we did.
Well, on the other end of the scale, we've got a question from Lloyd who says, did Chris Tarrant ever take offence at your interpretation of him? Any times where he's like, don't do that, that's not me.
I don't think he ever took offence. I think if he did do it, I think he'd have told us straight away, really. He used to laugh at us, him and Lenny in particular, when we used to do the sketches. He kind of, he's that laid back. He kind of just, it was anything goes, really. He seemed to enjoy it anyway. Lenny used to laugh all the time. I remember that. Lenny, again, he was like larger than life. this big guy, big booming laugh and a big smile. And when you used to do stuff, you could hear them laughing at the side, really. And then when you hear people laughing, it kind of makes it even better because you know you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. So it's great.
And again, in this series, someone that I have no idea why we haven't really talked about Lenny Henry. What are your memories of? Obviously, as you say, he was laughing all the time. Tell us more about what he was like.
Oh, he was fabulous. Yeah, I love Lenny. He was. I remember we did the OK dance sketch. So we all dressed up and we all had the tea cozies on our head. And there was about sort of 15, 20 of us on the dancing school. And we were all singing the OK song. We had a T-shirt with OK on. And he was great. And we had to actually eat bread and condensed milk sandwiches. And if you watch it back, I wouldn't eat mine. I thought, I'm not eating bread and condensed milk sandwiches. So you sort of see me do the dance move, and I throw the sandwich, sort of hoping no one notices, so I don't have to eat mine. So mine goes flying over, but everybody else is eating theirs. But he was, again, like Chris, used to just be full on taking the mick out of you, and everyone got treated the same. And it was just really, really good fun. Big smile. You can see why Lenny and Chris have done massive successful people. Obviously, really switched on and just know how to deal with everybody. So. No, nothing but nice memories. Lenny Henry was lovely.
Now, as I mentioned earlier, we have got a pre-recorded interview from the archives with the wonderful Ian Sludgeleys, who's sadly no longer with us. So, what are your memories of him?
Yeah, I know. Bless him, he was really good friends with my dad. Obviously, my dad being a stand-up comedian on the circuit. You've got the comedians that are all sort of in touch with each other and know each other, and they've got like a mutual thing going on. And my dad always spoke very fondly of Sludge. Very eccentric. And last time I saw him was when we had one of the reunion parties in Birmingham in Summer Row. But I saw him then and sat down, and he was again just always taking the mickey out. All right, Tom, how you doing, mate? Really, really strong with Wolverhampton accent, like this, And I've got a Brummie accent, but his accent's a lot stronger than mine. And he was lovely, Sludge. He didn't care about upsetting people. He was lovely. Said what he wanted to say. He's his own man, and he was a great bloke.
Now, you're still in touch with two Tiswas superstars, your sister and your dad. Are you still in touch with anyone else at all?
I'm not, sadly. I don't use social media anymore. I use Instagram very, very occasionally. I was friends with Matthew Butler on Facebook. We met at the reunion party in London. I got chatting to him. I think he's from Pinkwich in Stafford. He was a really nice chap, so we got chatting then. We didn't know each other as kids, but as adults, we've kind of chatted about the show, etc. But no, I don't use Facebook. I haven't used Facebook since 2013, so I'm a little bit... I wouldn't say I'm like a hermit, as it were, but as far as social media is concerned, I don't really kind of communicate with people too much on that medium. I suppose that's the way you would communicate with people. So there's a lot of people in the dancing school that I was friends with up until about sort of 17, 18, but then people grow up and get jobs and have children and do their own things. So sadly not. The only person is a girl called Alison Lewis, who is one of the dancers from Warsaw. She's still really good friends with my sister Bonnie, so occasionally I'll see Alison. And that's about it, really. Mm-hmm.
Well, speaking of lovely Matt Butler, he's normally a regular on our stream chat. For anyone who's wondering where he is today, for anyone who doesn't know, Matt is actually a firefighter, so he's massively a key worker, and he is very busy this morning protecting the world from danger. So he's gone from bunny boy to a superhero, which we're very proud of our Matt. So, yeah. So did you find that when you were doing Tiswas, when you went into school, were you famous at school? Did everyone want to be your mate?
Yeah, most of the kids did, yes. I think, in those days, there's 3 channels, so pretty much everyone at school watched Tiswas and the occasional boring kids watched Top Shop, but most people watched Tiswas. The main question that everybody asked you all the time is not so much what you was doing. Everybody asked you who the Phantom Flamflinger was. Who is the Phantom Flamflinger? You must know who he is. You must know. I remember thinking it was the most guarded secret in the world. He was like, who shot Kennedy? You can't disclose that information, who the Phantom Flamflinger is. Even though I knew who he was, people used to ask you constantly, you must know, come on. And that was the main thing that kids used to ask about. Most kids, loved it and asked you questions. There was the odd kid at school that were a bit funny about it towards you because, there was a bit that, he think his attitude, you get some kids like that, but 95% of the kids absolutely loved it and always asking you stuff. And we saw you on the telly on Saturday, and it was great. It was really exciting. I never told anyone who I don't think it was. I didn't tell anyone.
Very good. So you were learning performance art skills before you were 3. You were on the telly from 3 onwards. You were a mini-me for an established famous person. What did you do after Tiswas?
I carried on sort of doing some TV work. So I did some adverts, did like the Mushy Peas adverts. I did an advert for British Rail, Wellington's Games, a few TV adverts. Then I did Oliver Twist at the Hippodrome in Birmingham, which I did with Roy Hood. I just remember Roy, he was faking at the time. And then I got spotted by an agent, Sylvia Young in London. And she kind of saw me in Oliver and contacted my parents and started getting me involved in auditions. And so I auditioned for a lot of stuff. Then I did a radio play on BBC Two, program called You Should Be So Lucky, New Faces of 86 I did. But the main thing was I got a part in Les Mis when I was 10 in 1985, and I did that for just under 2 years, which was absolutely phenomenal. I loved it. I did it at the Barbican Centre first with like the Royal Shakespeare Company, and then went to the West End with the Alexander Palace. That was kind of that was fantastic memories from that. It was wonderful. It was really, really good fun. Yeah, hard work.
So you were the first boy. Is it Gavroche? Gavroche?
Yeah. So there was me. We had to share the part because when you're a child actor at that age, obviously you can't perform every night. The show's on 7 nights plus 2 matinee on a Saturday, so you can't do every performance. So we kind of do 3 on 3 off, 3 on 3 off. So me and the lad called Ian Tucker, we were both the original Gavroche, so we rotated it around. So yeah, we both learnt the part together, rehearsed it together, and then we started off. And Michael Ball was in it; he was Marius at the time. Roger Allen, there's all sorts of people in it at the time. You didn't realise who they were. So that was incredible. Yeah, it was. You didn't realise what it was until you actually did it, because my mum was very excited when I got the part. She thought, you've got this thing in London, and I was a little bit okay, but she was seen to be really, really, really excited. But when I went to the theatre and saw how big it was, and okay, this is actually quite terrifying. But I loved it. It was great.
So normally when we think about children's musicals, we think about Annie, we think about those happy kids that are in Chitty Bang Bang and all the happiness that comes with there. Not to give away too many spoilers, but you got shot every night. Yeah,
I had to die every night, yeah. I mean, you couldn't get anything further away from Tiswas. Tiswas was probably one of the happiest shows that's ever been on TV. And Les Mis, I mean, the clues in the title, it was not really nothing nice happens in that show, really. Everyone generally dies, and I got shot every night. So trying to help out, recovering bullets and dead bodies, and then a sniper took me out. So I came to a bit of a bad ending every night, really.
That must have been really. I mean, that's quite an emotional thing for a 10-year-old to be doing repeatedly. That must have been really hard.
It was quite. If you look back at it, I mean, it's a really dour show. There's only kind of one kind of comedy character in it, really, but everything's really. Yeah, it's not a nice story, is it? Let's be honest. I remember one night I heard someone, when I got shot, I heard someone cry in the audience, and then that started to make me cry, so I was kind of crying while I was singing, but then I kind of used that going forward, and it helped the performance. But yeah, it was quite sad. But then you come off stage and it was really exciting, because you was kind of, wow, just been on stage, and it was quite euphoric, really. So
back into the dressing room and onto the suites. So it's all fine.
That's fine. Yeah, give me your kick. That's fine. That was good. They asked me to do the reunion in 2010. I got an email, and they asked me to do the original cast. Were asked to come and sing the last 2 songs at the O2 in London, and I haven't done anything for a long, long time. I haven't sang for a long time. So I was 35. And then I walked out on stage with all these kind of singers who were still doing it. And that was really, really daunting, but I loved it. So that was 2010 that they had to. It was filmed, and if you watch the Blu-ray, you can see me stood behind Michael Ball in a suit. So it was good.
So you went from a teensy-weensy little studio in Birmingham, running out of a sauna, pretending to be someone else, to performing at the O2. That's a pretty good career run, I'd say.
I suppose so, yeah. I've never really thought of it like that, yeah. But, yes, it was... I look back now, I mean, I don't do anything sort of theatrical. I'm the only one in the family that's not involved in the theatre now. Obviously, spoken to my Bonnie, and spoken to Roger, Holly. My mum still teaches drama. And Holly, I mean, she was in the West End last year in Matilda. She's done a lot of stuff. Holly was actually in the Les Mis movie. She was in the movie with Anne Hathaway and Hugh Jackman. She was one of the lovely ladies in the film. So we've got a bit of continuity in the family with Les Mis. But I'm the only one that's got a sort of normal job now. I work in hygiene and I look at spreadsheets and have a normal 9-to-5 job. I haven't done anything for a long, long time. But I still sometimes tap dance in the kitchen when no one's looking.
Always good.
Yeah.
So do you think that anything now compares to Tiswas at all?
Ooh, as far as the closest thing I think in recent years, which I saw a lot of similarities with Tiswas, was I think, not now, but when Soccer AM first came on, I think Tim Lovejoy and Helen, I think when you watch that, there's a lot of similarities to that and Tiswas, as regards to, you could hear all the camera crew laughing and the camera crew were involved, and you could tell that was a really live show, and there was a lot of stuff improvised in that. And when I watched Soccer AM the first few years, I was like, yeah, this is kind of like Tiswas, definitely. Perhaps a bit more control, but there were elements which are very similar. But apart from that, not really. I think TV's changed so massively now, hasn't it? It's completely different. I mean, you speak to people now and no two people are watching the same TV programme, are they? Someone's watching this series on Netflix, someone's watching that on Amazon, watching this, and it's quite, even though it's phenomenal to have that choice and it's amazing, it's kind of lost that sadness where you can't speak to everyone about the same thing. And like you say, when you were little, everyone watched one or the other really, and you can always speak about the same things. So I don't suppose there will be anything like it again really, going that way.
Just quick apologies if anyone's getting feedback from my stream. It is absolutely hammering it down outside, so you may be able to hear that on the windows.
Well, that's what I heard earlier on, but no, it's fine now.
That's what it is. So, as you say, you've got a lovely cushy job now. You're working with hygiene and things. So, how are you being affected by the lockdown? Is that something you can do from home, or?
Well, normally I go out to see people face to face, but obviously we can't do that, or we're not allowed to do that, and I don't think people would see you anyway, even if we were. But we're really, really busy, like ridiculously, because what we do is all to combat COVID-19. So I've never been so busy as far as work's concerned. So I'm one of the lucky ones, really, because there's a lot of people out there that are suffering and they don't know when they're coming back to work, and a lot of businesses are closing. So I count myself as very fortunate, really, that I'm working in an industry where we're more active than ever. So I've been working flat out, harder than I normally do. So it's been great, and we're trying to help people as well, which is a good thing. So obviously you're kind of keeping people clean, people safe. So you kind of get satisfaction from that as well. But I could do with a break, to be honest with you. I don't know. I'm kind of, yes, people ringing up about sanitisers all the time. Yeah, I'm looking forward to going on holiday somewhere, which I can't see in the foreseeable future, unfortunately. But when we can, I could do with sitting on the beach somewhere and doing nothing.
Well, it sounds like you did we know you did a fantastic job entertaining us all on Tiswas, and it sounds like you're doing a really super job now for us all, so thank you.
That's all right, you're welcome. It was lovely to speak to you. Thank you very much indeed.